Michael, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and discussing with us. I met you first in Toronto at High Tech a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed having a conversation with you there about tech in hotels. Obviously, it was High Tech. And so when we were planning this podcast, I really wanted to have you on. And also because I am actually a big fan of citizenM as well. And I know you've done so much in the world of hospitality. I read what you write in Hospitality Net and things like that. So I know you've got real vast experience. So thank you so much for coming on and welcome to Pillow Talk Sessions.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
Absolutely. And I, following up on Jessica there, citizenM properties, awesome. I've been through Amsterdam, awesome locations, but I guess for our audience, if they're unfamiliar with you, Michael, maybe you can give us a bit of a background on you and a little bit what have you done, some brief moments in your career and where you're at now.
Yes, great. Thanks, Christian. My career started after graduating from IMI, a program that Cornell did together with ESSEC in Paris. And it was a master's in hospitality management. Joined Sonesta Hotels, where I had worked previously already, and enjoyed an 18-year career with them, opening hotels, remodeling hotels in Europe, the US, the Caribbean, and in the Middle East. So quite a rich experience. And subsequently, I joined NH Hotels in Europe and was responsible for their Northern European portfolio, which was a wonderful journey. But at one point in my mid-40s, I realized that either I had outgrown corporate or corporate had outgrown me, one of the two. But I needed to do something myself and started to become entrepreneurial and ended up with partners in the end, building citizenM over the past 19, 20 years. I would say citizenM, for those that don't know the company, we are a mid-market player. We have boutique hotels that maybe in its offer have small and efficient rooms, however, are at AAA locations in metropoles and have an extremely high-end luxury touch and feel. So it's more like an aspirational property for people to be at. We developed it with my partners actually for the frequent traveler, those that are always on the road, whether that is for business or leisure. So we offer a limited service product, but to them it comes across as 100% what they're looking for. And with the brilliant locations, we are able to offer it at a lower price than the competition in our immediate surroundings. But we call it affordable luxury, but still be accessible for everybody. So that's a little bit where we are. We have most of our hotels in Europe and the US, although we do have two properties in the Far East as well, in Taipei and in Kuala Lumpur.
And I have stayed in two of the citizenMs, and I guess I'm probably the absolute example of your target customer, a business traveler. I've stayed in New York in Times Square and then also Tower of London. And I also frequently actually meet people for business meetings at the London one, the Tower Bridge one as well, because not only is it just, really good, simple rooms that are just what you need when you're on a business trip, it does also have that kind of co-working lounge facility where you can really do meetings and work. And it feels like a co-working space or like a sort of cafe, but nicer than a cafe kind of co-working space. And that's one of the things that I really love about citizenM.
Yeah, thank you. We tried to create a living room feel. So, if you look at our homes, at the epicenter of our homes is the kitchen. So when you walk in, you stumble against the bar, and whether that is for a cup of coffee in the morning, barista made, or whether to shake a cocktail at night, it is right at the center. And the food and beverage is more sort of served in a pantry style. So it's very homey. And the living rooms provide easy sections, high, low seating, more around the table. So there is a variety. And indeed, that co-living, co-working is what we want to achieve, because our rooms are extremely small, very efficient and profound in their execution and in their functionality. So there is no problem. But we want people to come down just like you would be in your living room at home. And that, I think, has been a huge success factor of citizenM.
Absolutely. And I think with citizenM as well, it's unusual also in the fact that you aren't, you're not just operators, you are hotel developers as well as designers. And, that is something that feels like it's kind of unique and different.
I would say that we're one of the few platform plays in our industry, meaning we develop, we operate, we own the brand. And so we do basically all aspects of the hotel side. It really came about because if you want to build a brand, you need to have full control over the brand. And so often do we see that in our hospitality industry, a brand is a beautiful name and a logo, but really the brand promise is not being delivered. And in order to be able to have a very consistent brand delivery and have that relationship and promise to our guests, we felt we need to keep that under our control. And so far we've been able to do that. And I think that the loyalty that we've been able to build without a loyalty program and the guest satisfaction and employee satisfaction are so extremely high. They're ranking in the industry in the highest spots. Where obviously we're a limited service product, so I don't proclaim that we provide the best service in the industry. But when it comes to price value, when it becomes to a sense of belonging, our guests award us with the highest score.
Absolutely. And location too. Spot on locations in terms of very central wherever
Yeah.
they are.
Yes, absolutely. Very important. I always say it's hard to pick up a hotel and put it on another street corner if you don't like the one you're at. So, locations are fundamental. We have developed a methodology, very early on in our rollout, whereby we like to be sort of in between the central business district and the core of a city, and preferably a little bit closer to the CBD than to city center, but it needs to be on that core axle. And, obviously, when you have multiple units in cities like London, Paris, like in many cities where we try to have multiple units, you get to have some choices, but they're always core, they're always AAA. And I think that our guests know that if they choose a citizenM location, it's a AAA location, and they know that they can, by foot, basically reach any location in the city, have always public transportation that they trip over, and it's easy to navigate the city from there.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, not only, okay, the rooms and everything like this and how you have them set up, but each location, they really have the feel of that location. Besides the location of the property, but when you go to, just looking at like Copenhagen versus Rotterdam versus Zurich, the style that is incorporated into all the properties is, unique to the area, which also I find, quite interesting and, really fascinating about the properties as well.
Yeah, I think, Christian, that is possible because it is one and the same team that has done everything. So from the partners in the project, but also architects that do the interiors for us, from the styling, from the choice of furniture, from the choice of art, the music, the scent, everything we do is done by the same team. And we do believe in a very high degree of cookie cutter so that you know exactly what it is that you get when you get to a citizenM hotel. But it's a local game. So obviously there is locality about it, and you need to be part of the local community. Otherwise, you're never accepted. So we do that in the styling. We do that obviously through the teams that run the hotels there. And we want to be a local player. So it's a little bit of contradiction in terms to be a cookie cutter and to be local. But it seems that we're able to accomplish that, especially also that we realize that you come to stay at a hotel, and we don't expect that you do everything while in the city with us. So we want to recommend the right cool places. We want to be associated with the right, venues. So we spend a lot of time and diligence on being you before you arrive so that we can advise and hook you up into the right direction. And we chose a target audience. And whereas most hotel companies in the industry basically want to be something to everybody, we looked at the frequent traveler, and be that for business or leisure or a combination thereof. We know what you want, we know what your expectations are, and also what you're not willing to pay for. So our product resembles really what you're looking for as 100%, whereas we have a very limited product that we offer. And I think that has become the strength, combined with teams that provide service based on the value of my partners and myself. And these values are very human centric, very down to earth, not overly complicated. So a hi and a smile is more important for us than repeating your name 3 times. And we believe that in today's digital age, you want to have an app, you want to be able to do seamlessly everything. But when you walk in, you want some eyes catching you and a smile. And even if it's an air whisper like, hey, welcome, or I'll be right with you, whatever it is, we're still in the business of providing hospitality. And we're able to do that efficiently, I think, in our living rooms.
Absolutely. And I think that in terms of brand, knowing what to expect, especially for frequent travelers, which are going to come back again and again, to different cities and they want to, including myself, know what I'm going to get, know that experience. And even you mentioned scent. And, even the scent is the same, isn't it, in each of the hotels? Like, you're in a citizenM because it smells like a citizenM. I just want to come back to, sorry, go ahead.
No, the olfactic is important because it is subliminal, right? So it's not when you walk in, you go like, oh my God, what hit me? But it is a recognition point. And so we try to touch all the senses, but it's not only in the scent of the living rooms, if you wish. In the rooms, we do the same. So our soaps are especially created for us. So we have a morning soap that is based on talcum powder, and an afternoon soap that is more an so the sense and the things that we try to combine is that there is a high degree of recognition and comfort. So that's really where we are.
Is it true that to book a room, like you do need the app and to be part of the app ecosystem rather than booking it on an OTA? Like, do you save rooms for guests to go through the app rather than book elsewhere?
No. So first of all, let me be very clear that any inventory that we have is available to everybody. So when we are on the GDS or when we are on the OTA offering rooms, it's always available to our own channels and the GDS and OTA. Membership is important for us. So membership, if you're part of our value customers, so it's not a frequent stay program, but it is a recognition program. As part of that recognition program, we will make sure that there is availability for you. And there's a couple of features, obviously, that are special to our members. But basically, we believe in that our guest decides how they want to book, and it's not us that decides. If it is through a consortia GDS that your company requires, or whether it is a comfort of OTA that you would like to use, it's all the same to us.
But if you're a member, you will always have that availability is there for the members if you've signed up for the membership. Is that correct?
Yeah, always availability is, of course, difficult, but there are requirements. But yes, we keep availability for our members, and know also we're a very tech-driven company. So through our data, we know what we need to reserve and what we need to do for our membership for them to always be comfortable. So there's a very clear promise that we make to them that we can live up to, but always available is a big ask. But yes, and I think that we're one of the few hospitality brands that are really focused on database decision making and have that data also to back it up.
Yeah, I think, I want to kind of steer the conversation a bit more as, we're looking at how, hospitality now is kind of being transferred into, short-term, multifamily living and different parts of it, real estate, and I want to know, because citizenM, you guys do hospitality excellence. You know your customer, you know what to provide, the technology, the styling, the rooms. So how are hospitality principles, being integrated into sectors like build to rent and multifamily living? And, how do you see this, shift towards this service-oriented models in real estate?
Well, I think that, with evolution comes the opportunity for new product. What we believe is that if you choose a certain segment in the industry, then although there's evolution in that segment as well, you cannot answer every evolution in the hospitality industry at large. And also, if you have built a brand and there's a brand promise and a relationship you have with your customers, you cannot just, make a serious step the opposite direction and walk away from things. So if you see today apart hotels or certain other real estate solutions that gain success, great, more power to them. We believe that there is so much runway for us in our particular segment that we've chosen that for the next 10, 20 years, we have plenty to roll out. If it's not in the metropoles we are already, where it always can have additional citizenMs, there's plenty of main cities and secondary, tertiary cities that we can run hotels. So I believe that once you have a brand and you have a brand promise and you have a relationship with your target audience, evolve with them. Don't be stale, but you cannot pick up every trend. And also, let's face it, we're a heavy capital intensive industry. You cannot walk away from your commitment. So it's very serious for us, but we don't see it as a threat. We see it as an opportunity that others found different niches, and that basically the players that try to be something to everybody are losing ground.
That's interesting. So it is that really knowing your customer, really knowing what you're offering and not sort of evolving a bit from it, but not kind of going too far out of it. Because on this podcast, we talk to, one of the things that we're really interested in is the hotelification of real estate and how different types of lodging coming towards things more from a service orientated model, whether that's the multifamily or the living sectors, or of course the hotels and short-term rentals, sort of looking at things from a guest perspective in a way and an experience perspective rather than just a building. And I suppose, it is making sure that there's that, but it's not trying to do all kinds of different things, all kinds of different lodging. But with that mentality, it's knowing what you are, whether you're a hotelier, whether you're an apart hotel, whether you're a build-to-rent multifamily student living operator, but kind of keeping to that, because we know that there are lots of operators that are trying to do quite a few different things today.
Yeah, I think that, you're mentioning a couple of ingredients that mount up to the fragmentation in our industry, right? So as asset owners, you are one particular class where you mention brands on the other side, where basically through asset light and franchising, you have about two extremes that really are making consistency in our industry difficult. So the brands help out a little bit, but if you look today at the larger chains, the relationship that they have with their customers, where they really know their clients, is through the frequent stay programs. If you're outside the frequent stay programs, they know very little about you simply because the technology infrastructure behind doesn't allow them to recognize you or to bring that together. So I think in the newer models, you see that the use of technology, the use of open source technology, whereby the guest profile is an enriched item, it can be used for so many other things, be that recognition, be that access, be that a conversation with you, be that commercially. Whereas, traditionally the larger chains talk to you only through their frequent stay programs. And that is quite different. I do believe that to the asset owner, there are a lot of opportunities available and they see success. So apart hotels or the other flavors du jour, whether that is the Airbnb or any other hospitality solution, I think that there are answers being offered by many. But if you want to really stitch all the consistency together, and you do not have the technology and you do not have the brand recognition or the name recognition, it's a very, very, tall ask, and it is complicated to be efficient and successful.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I suppose, my time in hospitality, working for an OTA in technology has always been kind of a hard go for a lot of, hospitality and hotel owners, managers. They kind of shy away from getting too deep into technology. But, with generational shifts, my nephews, they live on an iPad, and these are the things that they expect. And these generations are getting older and they're expecting this technology to be available for them when they go to these different properties. So I mean, what do you say to those different property owners who do not want to go into having an app and being, remote keyless entries and things like this that are kind of shying away from that kind of technology?
Well, first of all, I think that we need to look at our digital behavior away from hospitality, but more in our daily life. So, I mean, our smartphone we use for banking. When is the last time that you didn't check in for a flight on your smartphone? And when is the last time you printed a boarding pass or picked up a boarding pass for that matter? When you retail, I mean, it's so easy to do that on your devices, whether that is a tablet, your smartphone, or just a computer. So I think that post COVID, it's not a nicety to have a digital relevant connection with your customer. It's must. And those companies that are on the fringe and just go like, oh yeah, you can download the app and you can check in on the app, but if I still stand in line to do my payment and to do my passport and to do my key recollection, stuff like that, or I still need to check out, you have defeated the whole purpose. And most hotels are not capable of giving seamless digital access or experience is because their tech architecture simply doesn't allow it. So most of the architecture is based on the property management system, the PMS as being the core, and they're great for inventory management and for administrative management. They're just not good connectors. And today, without good connectivity and rich data profiles or guest profiles, you don't get there. So a guest profile with your first name, last name, and maybe an email address is simply not enough to have a digital conversation with you. So your bank does not only have your first and your last name and maybe an email address in order to give you access to your account or make transfers, right? So unless we as an industry mature and understand that, unless we get our architecture on the tech architecture under control, we can never deliver digital. And digital has become a must. So those that do not invest in there, or those that do not find solutions, they're dead in the water. And maybe not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, definitely. That's bad news. The good news is that there are really relevant systems out there for large chains, for mid-sized chains, and even for the independent hotels, whereby you can step out of your legacy nightmare and get into a API first or a open source system that provides all that. And you can buy it right now off the shelf. What is really the challenge and what is holding the industry back is that untangling legacy from the past is a huge job. So, straightening out all the spaghetti in a pot is a lot of work. So I always advise people, make the transition, but outsource that as a project and bring people in from the outside because it's inhumane to ask that from your in-house people.
Yeah, it does feel like it's the last bastion of digitization, doesn't it? Hospitality in our lives as consumers. We're used to doing it in everywhere. Even with children, like booking, doing homework, everything is kind of digitalized as well as anything retail or travel. It does feel like this is, booking a hotel room, going into checking in is often very painful to do it. I've just booked with travel a couple of different places and, they're asking for all sorts of information from me, that I have to then go online and email it and find it rather than actually them knowing who I am, which any other place that I buy things do know that. They don't need to keep asking me for different bits of information.
Jessica, there's another reason why it is important, and you mentioned that ownership and the asset side of things. Let's be honest that the valuation of hotels is still a multiple on profits, right? And I do believe that with the rising cost, if we do not understand how we can reduce our costs operationally and where that sits, we never get there. So can I automate a cook? Can I automate several services? No. Where can I automate and basically have the guest become the employee? Because that's what it is, by providing a digital journey. And the funny thing is, the guest perceives it as having control. I don't have to wait in line. So they see it as a benefit to have this control. So they are willing to participate, but then we need the technology to do that. I guesstimate that if we want to make use of technology and AI and maximize that, it could have an impact of maybe 20, 25, 30% on our costs in the industry. And what we need to do for that is make that migration and make that mind shift. But often in our organizations, it is a CTO or a CIO, a chief information officer or a chief technology officer, that is a lonely wolf that is crying something, or it is a chief commercial officer that has a need, or an operations, a chief operating officer that has a need. But it's never as the C-suite under the leadership of a CEO that they say, hey, what do we really need to do with our tech architecture, and where does it touch all of you? And how can we do this as a joint effort? That deals, unfortunately, with the undereducation in our industry, whereby the depth of pragmatic, problem solving is just simply not there. There's no academic philosophy to fall back on. And I'm not saying that they're stupid. I'm not saying if you have learned the industry through operations, you're useless. On the contrary. But when it comes to this progress and you do not know how to be more self-critical and to reinvent yourself constantly, you're going to miss the boat. And that's happening in our industry.
With citizenM, you've started it and built it tech forward really from the beginning. And obviously over the 20 years citizenM's been around, or however long, tech has changed hugely since then, but I guess you've had that mindset right from the beginning. And I've got two questions for you. What do you know about your guests? So what do you sort of know about your demographics that are coming to you, and even the individuals? And then you also talked about how your decisions are all data-driven decisions that you make at citizenM. So what kinds of decisions are they, and how do you make them?
Both very relevant questions. So let me first address the guest. So in most organizations, like we mentioned before, a guest profile is built up out of 3 fields consistently. If you want to have a relevant conversation with the customer, the requirement sits, if you're between 50 and 100 fields that you utilize of relevant information, you get to a certain degree of relevance. And I need accuracy in knowing that I talk to you, Jessica, or to you, Christian, because I cannot just think I'm talking to you and have a conversation with you. I need to know it's you. So we need 98, 99% of accuracy in guest recognition and knowing that I talk with the right guest, and that profile enrichment and that profile cleansing can only take place if all systems are connected and have one system of record, and that reproduces the truth to everyone. So that is mostly from our systems, because if you come in through the app, or you come in through a reservation, or if you come in through a food and beverage reservation, or whichever way you enter the system, I need to make sure that it is you. And there's many methodologies to do that, and it's getting more and more refined. But if I do not know it's you, it's a serious problem. So I would say that on average, including the frequent stay programs, our industry sits at 35, 40% of actual accuracy in knowing it's you, whereas you need 98, 99%. So it's terrible. So I cannot get there unless I build up that and I use your profiling against not only my own data, but also outside data, whether that be social media, whether that be other, information that I can find on you. And I always need to tie it back. And it's not only on name. So, there's many methodologies that have been enriched today that can do that. Once I know it's you, now I can have a meaningful life cycle relation or conversation with you. And then I want to know a lot about you, but it doesn't have to be personalized about you. I need to know your patterns. I need to be able to fit you in patterns that deal with my business, and then I can communicate with you very efficiently. So we have built it up. But when you talk about database decision making, that does not only come from our tech architecture, that comes from business intelligence. And business intelligence in our industry is maybe coming a little bit of age, but it's still way behind of other industries. And within citizenM, we have built our BI department over the past 15 years. So we were very early on and understood that we just simply had not enough data to make the right decisions. And the BI department sits with tentacles in each of the verticals of our organization and independently collect and produce data for us. That are data scientists. So those are people that have no clue what a cup of coffee is or how to straighten out of bed or provide any hospitality service. These are data geeks. And through that, we have been able to shift our thinking quite a bit. Is it only there? No, especially with artificial intelligence that you can put on top of that data. There's a human impact. There is an entrepreneurial impact. There is a visionary impact. We as people need to stay alert and be part of it. But without that, and without having that volume produced to us, we're dead in the water. We cannot do anything. So two different answers to that. But I think that if you as an organization decide not to have your data, at the highest level, I see on the horizon only trouble.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Especially, as you mentioned, whether it's banking or shopping, how integral, our cell phones, our smartphones are to our lives, and so how this bleeds over to hospitality. But on the other side of it, hospitality is about human interaction as well. So how do you see those two things balances with the data-driven decisions and digital engagement versus the human element to it?
Christian, I think that is like sort of the old question that is being asked in the industry, right? Can you be high tech and high touch? And do they fight each other? I say today you cannot be high touch if you don't have high tech. If I don't know who you are and you walk in the door and I go like, maybe I recognize you, maybe I don't recognize you. I need to know who you are. I need to know about you. So I think that high touch is enabled by high tech. And if you do not understand that, you cannot do that. So if your bank, every time you sign on, needs to know where your mom lives and you need to do, 92 verifications, you're going to be tired. That's not what you expect. Uh, ho- if your bank is able to really customize things for you, or retail for that matter, or airline, then you feel hospitality through technology as well. So those need to be enabled. Having said that, one cannot live without the other. So today you cannot provide great high touch if you don't have the technology and you need to run all over the place to get everything. And vice versa, if you only provide tech, that is short-lived also. And I think that I might choose for an Airbnb for convenience. I might use an apart hotel where I only use digital and technology. But when I travel with my family or have a serious occasion that I want to celebrate, hospitality remains hospitality. So I do believe that they go hand in glove. They support each other. And if you do not recognize that they're equally important, then you're never going to get that answer right.
I think that also goes right to the very beginning. It's knowing who your customer is, who your target audience is. It's the in citizenM's case, it's the frequent business traveler that is looking for an aspirational product in a certain location. It's getting that bit right, not trying to be all things. You're not trying to attract families. You're not trying to say, oh, we can do your honeymoon, or any of those things. It is actually being very targeted.
But Jessica, that comes with hard decisions. So when we started out and we created a small and efficient room, we said for our target audience, the frequent traveler, whether that's for business or leisure, we leave that in the middle. It's for frequent travelers. So that's not for families. So we do not have rollaway beds. We do not have cribs. We do not have connecting doors. We do not have suites. One size room that is the same in the 10,000 rooms we operate. So I think that it comes with a discipline that you need to be willing to accept what the consequences are of dedicating yourself to a certain target audience. I can tell you, if I got $1 for every time somebody gave me advice to do connecting rooms or cots or rollaways or cribs or you name it, I mean, I tell you, it's pathetic. So it comes with a consequence. Now, why do we have zero problem with that in our guest satisfaction and in the guest journey is because we're transparent. So we underpromise and overdeliver at all times. And that is a concept that most people do not understand. They overpromise and underdeliver. And then when the guest satisfaction goes south, they go like, I don't know what happened. Oh my God, we need to analyze it. No, turn it around. So you need to under promise and over deliver at all times, and your guest satisfaction is through the roof. So we provide information on what we have, what we don't have, the square meters, what you can expect, everything to the T. So when we went to, only electronic money, so you cannot pay with cash in our hotels. I mean, everybody was like, you cannot do that. Why not? I mean, if COVID was not the ideal moment to do that, then that's what it is. And don't revert back afterwards. But we're very clear on it. So everybody knows. So it's just a mentality whereby you need to be very clear on what you do. And then you need to think about all the consequences. What does it do with tipping? What does it do with a lot of the consequences of those people that create every day who we are? So it's just all those business processes need to be looked at in such a minute detail that if you don't do that process right, you cannot get on to the next. And hoteliers are sloppy. They just, when they think for a second of it, they've thought about it. But thinking is rethinking it again, going deeper, challenging it and trying it out and failing and setting up also an environment whereby failure is high-fived, is celebrated. Why? Because then you can do something quickly about it and people don't feel embarrassed. So in our organization, it's very normal where people brag about the screw ups and show how quick the recovery was in the recognition process. That's where we pride ourselves. So it's mentality, it's a mind shift as well.
And actually, when you started talking about your journey from Sonesta and going then into citizenM, one of the things you said is that it was your time to be an entrepreneur and do something entrepreneurial. And that's quite an entrepreneurial mindset, isn't it? That failure is good, that you learn from it, that you do kind of look at things in different ways rather than a sort of a legacy corporate kind of mindset, I guess.
The idea of entrepreneurship is that you don't make too many failures and you have more successes than failures. But I do believe that you're right.
But you're a risk taker.
Yes. And I think that entrepreneurs are willing to go through a learning curve and they are never satisfied with the end result. So they keep on going back to it, how to perfect it, how to get it better, if you have that drive, then you also know you're never satisfied and you're never happy. And I think that mentality is very difficult to get across. So what we did in our hotels, we have an inverted pyramid. So our line staff that meet the guest, we call them ambassadors for the simple reason, if you walk into a citizenM and you meet a employee, they are the ambassador of the entire company. Very simpler, if you meet the ambassador of a country in wherever around the world, they represent the entire country and culture. And what we have done is we have empowered them. So they are accountable for guest satisfaction. They are rewarded and incentivized as such as well. But the rest of the organization supports and services up so that the ambassadors has everything at their fingertips. And that philosophy and that accountability and hiring on value overlap, making sure that 85% of your values live within an individual, it becomes very easy to become a consistent product, whether that is in Taipei or in San Francisco or anywhere in between. Any culture, it is that gives the recognition for our guests, and we're fortunate about that.
No, that's great. And I think, we've covered a lot of different things in today's discussion. Suppose, there'd be one final thing I'd like to hear from you, and it is, how do you view the future and this evolving? Again, like I said, my siblings and my nephews and nieces, they're all growing up. They're becoming, I guess you can say, consumers. They're going to university, and they're kind of taking over the world here soon. So how do you see the evolution of this sector and how it spreads out to whether it's multifamily living, whether it's built to rent, hospitality in general, and how important that is, digital and human connection, and where we'll be going?
Yeah, I think that the common thread in the future will be sense of belonging. So I think that in every step of success that I have seen is that the brand tie of the customer to that product is a sense of belonging. And in the hospitality, sense of belonging is I got to be part of the community. And whether you are the customer or whether you're the employee providing the service is irrelevant. That's the same. And there are people that better recognize that than others. So I do believe that sense of belonging is one. Second of all, that human component, that hospitality component, becomes rarer and rarer because we automate everything. We're so used to a digital lifestyle that family dispersed, we live by the social media. But when we really have the rubber meet the road, we still want that high sense of comfort, of care, of even to the extent love. And I think that a lot of organizations are driving emotion and love out of their organizations and replace it by efficiency, automations, need to cut cost, whatever it is. And they don't understand that they cut out the very fabric they're made of. So I think that the future will dictate more, whether it is assisted living, whether it is family living, whether it is student housing, whether it is any sort of asset, but also in the hospitality space in general. I think that those are able to deliver a consistent product that lives up as a brand. Because how many true brands do we know in the hospitality industry? So Hilton or Marriott is not a brand in the end, right? I can have a great Hilton experience and a terrible Hilton experience simply from physical or from updating or from whatever ownership-based point of view. So it's difficult, and I'm not saying that we are spotless in citizenM as far as experiences, but what I think we can pride ourselves on is that everybody that has stayed at any of the citizenM hotels recognizes that high sense of comfort, of belonging, and of, brand connect. And that I think what it's all about. So in the future, I believe that those brands that are more consistent will find easier clientele and definitely will find it cheaper because the cost of acquisition is a bear to anyone in the industry. And that's where a lot of our efficiency goes lost.
Absolutely. Michael, thank you so much for being a guest. It's been really great speaking with you and learning more about citizenM, but also your take on that technology, human touch, digitalization, and the future. So thank you very much for your time.
Sure, no problem, Jessica. Pleasure of being there, Christian. Thank you.
Thank you much.
I have maybe one other thought that I want to leave behind, if you allow me. We spoke a little bit about the technology need and the necessity to have technology architecture. And I think that it's fair to say that the tech knowledge within our industry, in general, within the operations or the running of organizations, is insufficient. And I believe that we have been by far a vendor-led industry, whereby today, finally, there are systems that come of maturity that allow us to clean things up. And mostly that sits in the middleware. If we allow middleware companies to become the system of record and have any other system attached to that middleware, we provide ourselves a huge service because a system of record, they can cleanse the guest profiles better and they can mirror it back to all the different ways where the guest profile is utilized or initiated. The biggest problem that I see, it's not that the technology is not there. There are great technologies out there today. The problem is that we have insufficient knowledge internally, or it is too heavy of a decision to make on how to get there. And I believe that if we do not see that as a significant project and that ultimately allows us to get to the digital age that we need to be at, that we discussed, see it as a project, get project management on it, make sure that the entire C-suite makes that decisions in order to make sure you involve everybody's need and desires into the outcome, but more importantly, outsource the whole process of switching over. And if you do that efficiently, I think that we can speed up that process and get to that promised land faster.
And in a way, hoteliers, whether it's brands, chains, independents, don't need to get to crisis point before they start to take that more strategic path towards changing and becoming more tech enabled. It's like, do it now. Really think of this strategically like a project, invest in it, invest in people, resources, outsource some of this. Otherwise, you will just get to a crisis point.
Yeah, the way I usually compare it is that if you're going to build a house, then it's a good idea to get an architect, and it's a good idea to get some people making the appropriate calculations of load bearings before you start to look for your contractor. And so also here, this is such a big job that we have ahead of us. Use the right people, outsource to the right people, but by all means, get the knowledge on the inside and jointly as to where you need to go. And you say, don't wait till your back is against the wall. I would say that our industry back is against the wall. So we're already late. And if we wait any longer, people are going to seriously feel the negative impact of it.
They go and get this information. Have you got any recommendations of how they can start that path?
Well, you and I met at High Tech, HFTP, and HFTP, the Hotel Finance Technology Professionals, is a great association. I would say that HSMAI, when it comes to distribution and the commercial side and revenue management, is a great association. I would say that when it comes to technology and get advice, it is going so fast. I'm passionate about it, and I would still, hesitating giving too much direct advice because it is changing every minute, and there's great people that keep up and make it their life dedication to do that, and get the right people to help you from an outsource point of view. Do not overload your people on the inside or think that this is something that can just be picked up. It's not, and if you don't do it, the consequences are huge.
That's great advice.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, very good stuff. Brilliant. Well, then, on that note, Michael, again, thank you for joining the podcast series. It was a pleasure to have you on today. Really insightful stuff, and we really appreciate it.
Sure.
Yeah,
thank you so much
Michael.
for inviting me.